Welcome to the Arlington Street Church podcast. Founded in 1729, Arlington Street continues today as a gathering place for progressive people of faith in the greater Boston area and beyond. We are located at the corner of Arlington and Boylston Streets, across from the Public Garden in Boston, Massachusetts. Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.
Boston's Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum honored Juneteenth this year, commemorating the emancipation of people who were enslaved in the United States. One of the activities they offered was a screening of a documentary about Black, queer, and trans narratives in Boston. It amplified the stories and experiences of Bostonians who continue to build and thrive locally. One of the most powerful moments in the film was when someone said, "I will never forget the power of someone calling me into my purpose." When I think of purpose, I think of it as an intentional commitment to a goal that can help provide us with a sense of direction. It can help connect us to the larger world and can in turn make a positive impact on the greater community. Reverend Frederick Buechner once said, "The place God calls you to is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet." As Unitarian Universalists, we might paraphrase that to say, the place to which we are being called is the place where deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Being called into that interaction of gladness and hunger, being called into our purpose, is very different from finding our purpose. Being called into purpose can involve someone in your life seeing the gifts that you bring to a community, naming them for you, or providing a space for you to act on those strengths. Being called into our purpose is lifelong and doesn't stop when we graduate from college and get a degree. It doesn't stop when we get that job we've worked exceptionally hard to get. And it doesn't stop once we've reached retirement. It is something that happens continuously over our lives, over and over, as we explore new opportunities and meet new people. A call into our purpose can come from our best friend who knows us very well. And it can also come from someone we've met just once. As a middle school English teacher, I spend every week working with students who are learning about themselves and what their purpose is in life. My students have taught me the importance of intentionality around language. We have the power to see and name talents that others might not yet see in themselves, and that can provide a starting point for people to embark on a path of complete and pure gladness as they realize gifts they might not have never known they had within them. The idea of providing a starting point for someone to spark their call to purpose made me think of the experience of a student who was an 8th grader at the school where I taught in East Boston. I'll call him Luis. Within the first month of school, it was evident that Luis had tremendous talent in writing. The teachers in the English department talked about how impressed they were with his ability to create vivid images, develop characters, and build suspense. At the beginning of the year, he was very self-conscious about sharing his pieces in front of the class, thinking that his work wasn't anything particularly special. He would come up to the front of the room and spoke softly, his hands fidgeting with his shirt as he read. His teacher, Mrs. A, occasionally hosted lunch groups in her classroom with a few students at a time. She invited Luis and a few of his friends to share lunch together, and as the year progressed, she slowly built his confidence in his ability to write fiction by naming the writing techniques he was already using instinctively. In his free time at home, he started writing a story about basketball. Sometimes he'd bring his writing to share over lunch, and by the end of the year, he had 9 chapters written. Fast forward 4 years to 12th grade. Mrs. A shared with me that she swung by the high school to drop off writing portfolios that she had held on to since Luis and his classmates were with her in 8th grade. She gave them to their current English teacher. She wanted them to see how far they had come since they were with her in middle school. "Mrs. A?" She heard her name shouted with enthusiasm from down the hallway. She looked up, and before she could say anything, she heard, guess what? My book has 28 chapters now. I've shared it with my new English teacher, my family, and my minister from church. Luis was beaming from ear to ear. Mrs. A told me he was glowing, the kind of radiance that shows deep pride in one's work, the kind that told her Luis was starting to realize what he was capable of. This is the power of calling someone into their purpose, pointing out a person's strengths and helping provide a starting point. Luis had someone important in his life name what he was good at before he believed in it himself, and that changed his perspective on what he was capable of accomplishing. In Unitarian Universalist communities, we are exceptional at calling one another into our purposes. During our weekly tea gatherings on Wednesdays this summer, many of you have shared ways that Reverend Kim or other congregants noticed talents in you and invited you to join committees or to help lead events together. You shared how this helped you feel called into your purpose here and help you capitalize on your talents. I came to Arlington Street when I was a new college graduate trying to build a life in Boston after moving from Burlington, Vermont. For the first time, I felt deeply alone because I wasn't in an environment anymore that provided regular social interactions. I had to seek community purposefully and intentionally. After attending a service at Arlington Street, I knew I was home here. I knew I was home because of the music and the sermons that challenged me. What I didn't realize yet was that I'd be called into a new purpose by my minister and find a space where I could have more direction in my life. Kim saw potential in me to be a person who could bring others together, organize events, and help restart our young adult group. She empowered me and another young adult to co-lead the group together. I felt like the work I was doing helped create a space where young adults could gather, share stories about our personal lives, lean on one another, and provide some consistency in our week. Being called into this role provided me with the opportunity to use my strengths in bringing people together and organizing gatherings to help others find a sense of community and belonging. Having someone I admired believe so deeply in me helped me realize a new ability that I had. Today, I continue to lean into that calling and look for ways to bring others together. During a recent poetry slam event, Marcia shared this story of being called into her purpose. In 2004, she was one of hundreds of couples who received a marriage license after the legalization of same-sex marriage in her state. She was scheduled to be married at City Hall and eagerly awaited for the day to arrive. But by the time she and her wife made it to the front of the line, it was 4:00 in the afternoon, and the receptionist said they didn't have space for another wedding that day, and they were told to come back the next morning. Undaunted, they arrived the next morning at 4:30 in the pouring rain. Finally, just before noon, they were legally married. Nonetheless, Martha realized she loved the whole process and wanted to walk others through it. Friends were scheduled to be married a few days later, and Marcia went with them and was there to celebrate. One of the staff approached her to say that he noticed how much exuberance Marcia exhibited as she walked with her friends down the hallway. Her joy in being a part of this important moment in their lives and in our history inspired him to offer her the opportunity to work with him as a volunteer. Her job would be to escort couples from where they filled out their paperwork to the place where the official ceremony would happen. The next morning, she called into work and said she wasn't coming in. Marcia had been called into her purpose by someone she didn't know well at all, giving her a deep sense of meaning and joy. This transformed how she filled her time. Mrs. A, Reverend Kim, and the staff member at City Hall are all examples of the kinds of people who live their lives noticing what brings other people meaning and joy. Noticing the moments people walk with a little more bounce in their step. This morning, I invite you to think about ways you have been called into your different purposes throughout your life. Has it changed from when you were a kid to what you see your purpose is now? Did someone in your life help you realize a talent in you that you didn't yet see in yourself? What was that like? Have you helped call someone into their purpose? Have your words helped encourage someone else to try something new and they realized how much they loved taking part in those moments? When we live our lives with the intentionality of calling other people into their purpose, we move through the world with more kindness, compassion, and love. Our words have the power to inspire and build confidence, and helping others realize their talents can help create a community that is intertwined more deeply. May we all name the gifts that we see in others. May we all be called into our purpose over and over. Amen. And now for our benediction, I invite you to put your hands over your heart in Namaste. I bow to the divine in you. The place to which we are being called is where our deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. May we all be called into our purpose over and over. Let us keep the faith, beloveds, and pass it on. The service begins when the service ends. Bless your hearts. I love you. Amen.
Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. My divine, my divine. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. Where you go, I will go, beloved. Where you go, I will go. For your people are my people. Your people are mine. Your people are my people. Your divine, my divine.
Please visit ascboston.org for more information about this historic Unitarian Universalist congregation. Arlington Street Church, gathered in love and service for justice and peace.